Anything. Yay, we're back. I'm Abby. This is DeAnna Batdorf, and you're here for Ask DeAnna Anything. DeAnna Batdorf is an Ayurvedic practitioner, mind body educator, lymphatic specialist, and DeAnna Essentials formulator. And here, nothing is TMI for DeAnna. The DeAnna Essentials mission is a place for all people to heal, learn, and grow. We provide a community of support to empower individuals with knowledge, tools, skills, for their optimal well-being. So yay, we're so glad to be back. This is so exciting after a couple months of travel and new learning experiences. So I'll pass it off to DeAnna to share a little bit about the last couple of months and what we've been reflecting on.
Well, I'm going to be short and sweet. And you know why? Because we have a whole bunch of great questions. So we're going to have a really full show today, and I'm going to work very hard on being short, sweet, and concise with my answers today. So we'll see what I can do. You might have to give me a little
speed round.
But if I was going to take a moment, first things I would say is like, I truly see our trip to Portugal. First off, I was there with Abby.
Yeah.
And Abby was in class, and she was also providing breakfast and just that early morning nourishment with Scott, my partner. And so they did some beautiful, beautiful breakfast container, holding space for people to like wake up and get ready for class. And then you came to class yourself, and it was just a beautiful clinical foundations course. Same course I've been teaching for 28 years. And yeah, it was pretty powerful. And last little thing I'll say, and I'll let you add in, but we had a talent show on the last evening.
Yes.
And a dance party, and it was like so good. And Abby, I'm almost tempted to put it online.
Yes, we might. I think we
I have to say, Abby roasted me in the talent show, and it was like, it is literally still laughter in my space every day. And probably the video is just going to be a bunch of people laughing in the background, even if we put it up.
I just watched it the other day. It was so funny.
Can you even hear what you're saying?
You can hear it. Okay. We have a couple people who are like howling, laughing, but it was great.
Well, I think I'm probably one of them. But Leo was sitting next to me, and he's got the most robust laugh ever. So it makes it part of it. But you did a great job.
Well, it only works because you have so many good, memorable lines and quotes, and you have such a way of being an incredible teacher. So then it's like, we have all these great little tidbits. The
whole skit was about Ask DeAnna Anything.
Ask DeAnna Anything. Dating edition.
Which we should do.
We definitely should.
So we should think about that. Some, specific kind of segues into this.
Exactly.
Yeah. So beautiful, magical time. Northern Portugal was beyond. We had a river rushing things away and bringing in new and constantly flowing throughout our entire course.
Yeah.
And that river just flowed. It was tumbled over the rocks right at the classroom. And just, it made for like magic. Plus it was an old water mill, that was the grinding stones for grains to make flour in the 1800s. I mean, it was amazing. And that was the classroom, were these massive stone, grinders that were connected to the mills on the other side. That was so really, really ancient. And it felt so deeply traditional and kept us in just the Portuguese mood. And the people, they are flowing.
They are flowing.
I just need to give a shout out for the Portuguese. I'm sorry, but like that
is amazing.
They are in flow. They are in nature. They have a very natural stance in the way they move and get things done, but they still get things done.
Totally.
And they are just wonderful to do business with, because I was renting space and getting Portuguese lunch every day. And, and just beautiful, beautiful people. And everywhere I went, everyone was like, yeah, come be with us. Like everybody moves here. Why? Because we all get along.
Totally.
And they even knew that like, they're just like a true melting pot of people getting along from all over the world. And many people have, had to flee from their own country. And where do they go? It's one of the places people go.
Totally.
So that really moved me. I was moved by the people and the spirit of the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot from those things, you know.
Yeah.
So, yeah, look forward to that video. I think we have to put it up.
I'm
I mean,
totally
it's
down
just
to put it
too
out to the world.
good.
Yep.
And I'm happy to be roasted on a wide rod in the ethers, you know, because it was just very special.
It'll be a good education piece. You know, those little things will stick. Yeah, the elements there are so powerful. I feel like we had this ongoing joke about the Kapha Wet Club because we were all just, there was so much water flowing through. We were all crying all the time.
And then
just
I'm a
letting things
Kapha
go.
Wet.
Yeah, exactly. 2 Kapha Wets on podcast.
Oh my gosh. So, yeah. And yeah, thank you all for allowing us to take a little break. We were very absorbed in something precious. I hope you all are able to get out of your everyday lives and make that room for yourself. We often say we can't. And it's interesting how there's ways and there's even some really inexpensive places to go, not just, you know, anywhere you want. Like wherever you're at, there is a way to take a little travel and time out of your life. And I just want to be an advocate for that. You know, rest. You know, which I'll be teaching in body mapping here very soon, you know, the modules of breath and rest and how much we just take in our truths in different ways when we have that moment to step out of our lives. So, yeah, so.
Definitely find that place nestled in nature somewhere.
So
awesome.
Hit me with these questions, man. I think there's a whole bunch, so let's do it.
Sure are. Okay. Question number 1. Okay, someone asks, I just listened to the dental health video and I heard that DeAnna uses her tooth powder to heal cavities, her own, and has also seen this work for others. How do you do this? Do you use the powder in some particular way other than brushing with it? Do I need to rub it onto the cavity or pack it around or just brush that tooth? And then the follow-up is, how long does that take? And if they have a cavity, they already have a cavity and it's just 2 weeks out to get it filled, then is that enough time? And then does the cavity fill up with actual tooth material?
Okay. Whoa, this is a good question. So I'll even start with the last question. When the cavity, which is an infection, when the cavity heals, those bones re-knit themselves. That's a whole nother conversation in itself. So we'll wait. Somebody asked me a bone question and we'll get to it. But the bones do re-knit themselves literally in the same alignment, fiber by fiber, because our bone marrows are RNA DNA. So that bone literally knits itself back together, and teeth, hair, and nails are the byproduct of bone. So dental care is also teeth, hair, and nail care. So yes, it will clear itself up and bind itself back. And that's cool.
That's awesome.
You know, the question of like, if you're going to get it filled in 2 weeks, like you're just going to get a little less infection out, and you're maybe going to give a little bit of like tonification and some strength to your dental in preparation for getting it filled, but you're not going to get rid of the cavity. And it depends, how old is it, you know? But did I hear it was brand new? If it's brand new and you're getting it filled, if it's brand new and you're getting it filled and you only have 2 weeks, why don't you just stave that off, that surgery, just put it out for 6 weeks or 2 months and see if you can deal with that cavity yourself. So that's what I do. It's like, I'll know, you know, because my dentist is in Mexico. So, you know, I'll kind of be like, okay, when could I maybe get, you know, to Mexico? You know, when can I make that drive or whatever I'm going to do? And I think of it ahead, and then I get in these goal related places where I'm like, but can I get rid of it before I go?
Totally.
And I just feel like this is a perfect example of that, because if the cavity is getting better and better and better, you're taking care of it. You know, if it's not getting better, well, then, you know, I mean, 2 months when it's brand new isn't going to be that much different. I mean, cavities are slow growing. They're very slow growing. They're slow to heal too. So I guess that's how I would answer that part of the question. How to use the tooth powder. So the tooth powder, it started with a mama who was on a camping trip, but she had been at the center and picked up a tooth powder and it was in her car. And then her child's having massive pain and they're on a camping trip. And she just was like, maybe I could pack that in there. And she
Mm.
did it
Smart.
with pine sap.
Whoa,
So she took the
nice.
pine sap. Didn't we have a conversation of this at your IntegraFest?
Oh, you may have. I wasn't there
Anyway,
during that part, but
there was a pine sap conversation. But anyway, and she put the tooth powder in there and she mixed it all together and then just packed it up into the tooth and then just kept making a new one and packing it in. Made a filling. I was just like, that is brilliant. What a smart mom move. And so not only the pain went away really quickly, but it started just mending up the cavity. And so then I was like, dang, I'm going to start doing it whenever I get a little starter.
Totally.
You know, I've only had 2 cavities since I was 20, but I've been doing my own dental care. Nice. And I've had other cavities. I got 2 that got out of control and I had to get them filled. You know, but all the others is just like, oh, yep, something's going on there. Let me take care of it. And I do the same thing. I often, you don't have to do the pine sap. And you have to be careful because, you know, like you don't want to like put it on there and then it hardens and then you kind of chip it off. You'll chip off your enamel. So the pine sap's got a few little, you know, so maybe you could also add a little vetiver into that and or benzoin. The tooth. I hope y'all appreciate that I actually show you these things.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm not afraid to show you these things that I do in my own home to take care of my teeth. You know, we have to dry that tooth out and then you just pack it in there and then you can just kind of, you know, let it do its medicine. Brilliant. So, yeah, the other one is beeswax. I love just taking the beeswax. I liquefy it. I add my tooth powder. And I almost make like a little, almost like a, you know, a beeswax, like soften then. Vetiver is brilliant for like my toothpicks because I have digestive toothpicks. And I was going for like a chai root beer.
Yummy.
Because they can cross, you know, and I was like, how could and oh my gosh, I really hit the mark. I have to say it's one of my favorite, you know, and it's just, you can feel the cleaning, but I made it very nourishing for receding gums and, you know, so yeah. And those toothpicks would be smart for a cavity because there's medicine on the toothpick. And so you just put it next to the cavity and you just suck from there and you kind of, you know, and you don't need to pick at anything. So the toothpick isn't for picking. You don't want to push your gums up and get them receding. You want them to stay flush on your teeth, you know. So these are just some of the important details. Yeah.
So your whole regimen, you would say, is the oil pulling, the digestive toothpicks.
This is what I do at night. I do my eye and my dental care at night. Yeah, I mean, I brush my teeth in the morning, use my tongue scraper always, but I scrape my tongue And then I brush and then I scrape again. So I actually like pre-clean my mouth. I don't need to start cleaning it from dirty. So I do a little pre-clean. And then I oil pull and I hold it for maybe, 3-4 minutes. And then I spit it out when it feels dirty and thick. And then I do another one. So I do a couple swishes, like I do a few little rounds, maybe 2 or 3 of the oil pulling, and I'm pulling it through my teeth and up on my palate, which is connected to your pituitary, your pleasure pain relation. So you want your palate to get massaged too. You want to massage your palate. Why do children get addicted to their thumbs? I was one of them.
Got that serotonin release.
Yeah, a little bit of DMT. You're just like,
yeah.
Sorry, it's true.
Yeah.
So, we want those palates to stay open. It means we're like in our body temples and we're in our pleasure, relation of the pituitary. Yeah. So, and yeah, that's pretty much what I do. And then I'll do a little extra care if I have a cavity, but I haven't had one in years. So I don't really know that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much it. Awesome. I mean, I have other details in the webinar, but
yeah, we'll put all those different links on the website for the toothpicks and the oil pulling. We even have tongue scrapers, tooth powder. Yes.
And copper tongue scrapers. These are great stocking stuffers, by the way. Great little gifts because they're not very expensive. But we have the copper if you need more warming for your stomach. And you really need to kind of more, get things churning a little bit quicker. Maybe you have low metabolism or low hydrochloric acid, which makes you run really cold in the stomach. And then you've got the stainless steel for anyone who's more hot inflammatory, and that's more cooling. I like to have both, and then I decide according, because in the winter I get a little low metabolism, but in the summer I get inflamed. And so, I just kind of switch it out. And sometimes I'm even like, the copper's so cute. I'm using that today. Exactly. So, and then that's medicine too, because I made a decision. I chose something that's healthy. So tongue scrapers are about massaging your nerve endings. So there's a whole body massage that comes from like scraping your tongue. Just saying.
Who knew? I love my tongue scraper. Best thing ever. Okay. We ready for the next question?
Yeah.
Awesome. I also have a question, same person it seems, about healing immediately after surgery. I wrote down that you recommend Arnica, 3C, and Frankincense essential oil for recovery immediately after surgery. And the question is how to use the Frankincense essential oil and any other thoughts on recovery immediately after surgery, in addition to rest.
Okay.
That's from Maria.
Yeah, lots of surgery stuff going on in my world right now. I've been holding space for people in surgeries almost all week, and a few more coming up this week with, just clients and people in my life, So yeah, I know quite a lot about this question. So a few things I would add. First off, it's Arnica 30C. I just want to make sure there's a 3O in there. So 30C. And then I also feel like 10 to 15 mint leaves a day that you're chewing on. One of the most amazing oxygen anti-inflammatories ever. And it's super simple and it's refreshing when you're just kind of like trying to rest and hang. Rest, how much can I could do an entire webinar on just literally the value of not moving and not working your body, but keep breathing, keep sweating. There's a lot of ways to do it while you're just laying there, but like how many people can you let help you?
Yeah.
And you get your little, straw next to your
shoulder.
And it's like, what can you do to immobilize as a way of not getting scar tissue? Because that's the biggest issue with surgery is that you stretch it too much and it opens and you get an infection, or it scars. And if you get an infection, you're absolutely scarring. Like they happen simultaneously. So it's very important. And I feel like this is a very big difference from what we're being told with surgery. And one of my bummer, because I work with so many docs, I mention it, and, there's surgeons around here that totally know me. I'm kind of surprised the clients, like my surgeon totally knows you. I'm like, really? Who are they? And likes what you do, so I love the other side. But I don't think, they're helping people get back to work. Yeah, there's all kinds of financials and stuff around that. But that we need 2 weeks of rest after surgery. If you've been cut open and put under, if you've been put under, cut open, and brought back in, you need 2 weeks. And that's just the truth. Situations where I'm pretty down and out and, can't take 2 weeks off. Totally. So then you're going to have to be strategic and creative. And that's kind of, the truth of our lives. Let's see, what else would I say about this question? The frankincense, and then we'll move on. But the frankincense, I work and, the rules of a surgery. So I think it's to a certain extent, soap, hit to oily. So I had to put that in there. To a certain extent. But I don't put anything in people's wounds. I think it's really important to let that thing happen, and whatever medications they're choosing to do, let everything that they chose play out and work. And so that frankincense would go kind of upstream in the lymph, which means up at the drains, or what if you had a surgery on your knee? I'd be putting that frankincense up here on the hip because it's upstream. You always want to think about that. You're going to need your hips and your knees to be open. If you're having a hip problem, you're going to need kind of above and below to be a little more open. And it's a great place to put the medicine, so you don't go too close to the wound or interfere with their bandages. I just like to respect those things and not be like, we can do whatever we want. It's we can do what we want if needed. But if everything's going as planned, I don't want to mess up anybody's, beautiful work. Surgeons are like artists.
Totally.
I mean, they really can be like an artist, even if I've seen some pretty bad surgeries gone wrong. That's the truth too. But everything's a mixed bag. Let's be honest.
It's true.
Everything.
Yeah.
So
give everyone their credit.
I think it's important. And those questions to your surgeon are just so precious, every little detail. And you need them to be able to be like, yes, I will do that for you. Yes, I will pay. I will be very meticulous about how I sew you up. Yes, I will not leave any. No, I will not leave any puckers in that, wound, or, I'm like, just be as clear as you want and ask for what you want and get the answer you want. And then you're going to have to trust and let yourself go under and just be. Surgery is brilliant for letting go of what you don't need, because you're in the ethers.
It's true.
You get to let go of what you don't need, and you also get to be like, universe, I'm really close to you. I like to say, I will do the work, but this is what I'm asking for. I have that set up with universe. Totally. I will do the work, but I'm going to ask sometimes for could you kick this down easier than harder? Come on,
trying to make it happen here, trying to make it for the collective good.
And so you can do that in that time too. And that's pretty precious.
Yeah, that's a great way to think about it. Okay, next question. My question is regarding the diagnosis of Bell's palsy. At the age of 2, I was diagnosed with it, and that was in 1977. And for the first 4 years, from what was shared with me with my parents, I received therapy to the left side of my face, which consisted of a type of needle therapy to stimulate the nerves and the muscles. From that stage to now, age 46, there is a great difference, but for those who have a medical background, they can notice it immediately, and individuals without one will inquire during emotional moments. The half smile or the weakness in the eye appears greatly. Being diagnosed so young and the muscles and nerves have been in this stage for so long, is there anything I can do that can assist or even repair the damage?
Okay. Big question. Love this question. But big question, maybe, in the, we got to talk about nerves, to kind of really talk about Bell's palsy. So it affects the 12 cranial nerves. Our 12 cranial nerves are our motor and our sensory organs, and they're behind the eye. And so whichever one of your sets of cranial nerves behind which eye is kind of where you're going to get that lack of tone and the muscles drop out. And that's the Bell's palsy. It is in the conditions of like what's considered a minor stroke. It's like a localized stroke. And so a lot of times when somebody, and that, I'm going to put it in that form, not to scare you, or you probably already know this, but the fact that most times when people have a stroke, it's like not a lot of discussion around healing. Mm-hmm. And this is a problem we have. I mean, it's going to take work to heal nerves, because we have lymph, blood, muscle, skin, bones, nerves, reproductive. We have 7 tissues, and it's the 6th tissue. So your lymph, your blood, your muscle, your skin, and your bones need to be feeding nutrients to your nerves. You can get some localized circulation, and you can start waking up the nerve endings, and like the face's nerve endings, they actually wake up. So there's lots. I could start by just saying, I could have just said, yes, there's quite a lot you can do, but I don't want to, I want to be honest that it's going to take some work. You're going to have to like get into your lymph, and lymph and blood move the same time. Mm-hmm. And as you're moving your lymph, you're going to have to kind of unwind muscles and kind of get whatever's stuck in there, or get them juicy if they're dry. It's most common, if it was 2 years old, it's most common that you might have Vata in your constitution, mm-hmm. because Vata rules the nerves. It's ether and air, and there are people who run a little more cold and dry. And when we're cold and dry, we don't have as much of that like liquid exchange, like driving through those tissues, mm-hmm. feeding each other. And so you may want to look at my like lymph ebook, and you might want to look at my water ebook. And there's a reason why those are the 2 ebooks I have. Yep. I'm actually really working on an ebook on breath, because those are kind of my 3 trines of like the truth mm-hmm. of health, mm-hmm. Essential. Mm-hmm. So I think you should look at those and kind of get into your lymph system. I talk about it so much in this. We could be all gua sha, salt scrub. Gua sha is the most important tool for you here, because you can literally, rub it against and like activate and open the lymph, make sure the drain's open. You can get in, you can start seeing where do you feel numb, work it more. Don't overwork your face, you'll bruise. So you just a little bit at a time. And it would work really good if you were under a steam inhalation, or like in a bathtub or in a shower. Warm. Mm-hmm. Nerves love warm. Mm-hmm. And if things are cold and icy, we got to warm it up. And if it's dry, we need to warm it up to liquefy. So warm is a big part of this picture for nerves. Mm-hmm. And it keeps it calmer while you're, doing that kind of circulatory. Mm-hmm. But I've seen so many people wake up their nerves. My mama had Bell's palsy 3 times, and I saw her through each one of those. Wow. One of them was very long standing, like almost a year, and I was still able to wake them up. You're way beyond a year. I totally hear the age line, the timeline. But I think you can do it. I really do. And what if you even just woke up a little bit, or what if you even were able to get the lymph and the blood and the muscle and the skin to start, regenerating. And, there might be some cranial work or something that, there might be some bones that need to be moved, mm-hmm. Especially because you got it at 2. It makes me kind of wonder if there's a few of the cranial or frontal bones, or the ethmoid bone, little butterfly right here. Mm-hmm. I'm teaching this in January.
Come to Tibetan cranial.
Yeah. Tibetan cranial palate release. But these are things that would be connected to Bell's palsy, to be honest, and I teach palate not just so practitioners can do it, but you can do it yourself. Oh, dude, we're back to sucking our thumbs.
We're back to sucking our thumbs.
Seriously.
Back to the palate.
And kind of what needs to happen there. But if you were born with your palate colliding down, or if you have any of these main nerve-related bones, the zygomatic, the ethmoid, the frontal bone being down, these things obstruct our nerves. And it could have been a very early piece of things. 4 days ago, I moved a tiny little 8-month baby who was breech, and I helped Mama move Babe around. So now I got to meet Babe, and that was really precious, you know, to have like helped a baby get in the right position through massage. And then, you know, oh man, she picked a good contract. Great parents. I mean, just like, wow, I would totally take that contract. Seriously. But I moved her little jaw, and it like totally shifted everything, and the way latching happens. Like,
that's so sweet.
When I think of your 2-year-old, you know, I think about those cranial bones and how they need to, sure, they find their way, but do they find their way to perfect balance? How much does that happen in life?
Totally.
So sometimes we have to help move those along a little. So there may be a skeletal picture, since that's the tissue right before nerves. But there's so much advice. I would just start massaging your face and gua shaing out from the inside out, and just start really, you could go any direction you really want, but kind of just like, that's all tonifying for us to kind of go up. And that's how we keep everything all plump anyway, you know what I mean? So not such a bad exercise when it comes to anti-aging either. Blood flow, that's how we wake up everything.
Sounds like a win-win.
Yeah. I would be thinking about Tulsi essential oil. And you don't want to put that straight on your face or skin. So you just need to kind of like put 6 drops of Tulsi in your hand twice a day. Take a little, you know, half a teaspoon of some salve, or a little half a teaspoon of oil, you know, just a little. And like, or put it in like, what is your face cream? Like, put the Tulsi, but you know, be careful with your eyes, and just make sure that I would put the most of it down on your neck and at your ears, and maybe up in your hairline, and then maybe kind of, you know, the residue goes on your literal face. But I do think, and maybe the 6 drops Tulsi, you might want like 1 drop of Tulsi in some oil for your face. And I just want you more to get the Tulsi more, you know, kind of in that other area. But that would be an amazing blood flow nerve regenerator. And Palmarosa is my #1 nerve regenerator. Tulsi is about the blood and the flow to the tissues. You can merge it with the Palmarosa. For skin, that might even be a better choice. 3 drops Tulsi and another 3 drops Palmarosa twice a day. I think that might almost be a better option. But you can try either one and see which one's calling you. That's the medicine you always want to pick. The one that's calling you. And if they're both calling you and you can't decide, well, then they probably want to be together. You know?
I love both of those essential oils. Tulsi is just the best for everything.
It really is. Great tonic.
Yeah. While we're talking about the face and the mouth, we have a friend who is going into surgery today for cancer. Yeah, in the inside of her mouth. And I believe it's stage 2 cancer. And a sore on the inside of the mouth. So I was wondering, would you use a similar protocol for what we were talking about earlier with cavities, or are there different things you would use post that surgery?
Okay. Well, what are the other concepts around the cancer? Are they just kind of like pulling it out as like a wound, you know, cells, and then no chemo, no radiation, no nothing?
I believe so.
Okay. Okay, good. Well, that's good. So first off, I would let that completely heal. So I wouldn't be putting anything in the mouth. very different than the protocol before. Like I wouldn't put anything in the mouth. I would let it completely heal for a couple weeks, and it's a moist environment. So dentists are usually a little bit more like, this is going to take a couple weeks more than a different surgeon. So she might know that. They might know that. So let me see. What else would I say? I think I'd go back to that Arnica. I would go back to I would do the frankincense and the palmarosa, but I would not do the tulsi after surgery. It's a heavy hitter blood flow thing, and you got a whole bunch of chemicals in you. So I don't like to use too many active essential oils after surgery. I like to use the ones that more, support it. So I would do the 10 drops of frankincense, and I would do another 10 drops of palmarosa. You wouldn't want to use any other essential oils in your world. That would be kind of a max. And you might even want to stretch that out to 4 times a day because there's going to be bed rest and it makes it possible. So like do the Frankie in the morning, do the palmarosa after breakfast, then do the Frankie after lunch, and then do palmarosa before dinner, and then Frankie again, break it down. I think that'd be really smart. And both palmarosa is great for dropping out the jaw and calming down the upper nerves and the brain so you can go to bed. It's not a sedative, but it takes the edge off the nerves, which is more what I prefer to do to help people sleep until further notice.
Yeah.
When that's not cutting it, then we go to the heavy hitters, but I would say that would be a beautiful combo for that. And then there's only one other plant that's going to be just so important, but I would kind of, I would let them get on with their life a little, like even think about like a month, 2 months out. And then if I was somebody, knock on wood, who got cancer of any sort and then was in remission, I would be all over Helichrysum italicum. It's the reason I sell that specific Helichrysum. Very different than the grandifolium, which is the most common on the market. Italicum is very well researched throughout Europe. It's anti-cancer. It's like wound mending 101. So it's all tissue health. I've used it in nerve issues too. I've used it in Bell's palsy. I've used it with a lot of ringing in the ear. So I use it with a lot of stuff like that. But it is kind of my go-to. And then the more inflammation that you're struggling with, because cancer is based on inflammatory markers, if you feel like you still have a lot of inflammation, but they took out the cancer, you might want to add a drop of blue yarrow with your 2 drops of Helichrysum twice a day. Low dose, very strong essential oils. And by the way, they're very spendy. Sorry. They're not cheap. But there's 300 drops in a bottle in a 10 mil. You know what I mean? If you're only using, 1, blue yarrow a day and you have a 5 mil, that's 150.
Yeah, it's a lot of doses.
That's a lot actually for your $100. So you have to think about that with oils, But the Helichrysum is 2 drops a day, and that's just me being like, okay, that word cancer came up, or that was in my life. I don't want more mutation of cells. I don't want to live in fear for the rest of my life. Yes, I have to look at everything inflammatory. I have to look at my alkaline food versus what is acidic food, and just really looking at like high minerals, which is green, and getting hydrated, because we get more fiery when we're dry. So you got to change dry and hot with cooling and nourishing. It's important to anyone in this relation to, this mutation of cells, cancer, any form. It's a bottom line. So, I would want to know that Helichrysum's there. But Helichrysum is really tricky with radiation. I can't use it together. I can't use it with chemo. I can't use it right after a surgery. That's why I'm saying like, hey, wait 6 weeks, wait 2 months, and then it becomes part of your everyday life of just like, I am facing this every day so that it doesn't become me. Like, I really believe that the more you kind of are like, universe reminding you again that I understand and I'm humbled to the fact that I've had mutated cells. Please support me in not having mutated cells today. Support me in that. I mean, I would make it just a part of my daily sacred practice to, you know, because otherwise it's this looming thing of fear and wondering and regrets and what did I do wrong and all kinds of crap. That is how we mutate.
Yeah.
You got to turn it into something, you know, it's now a life process. The moment that's been part of your diagnosis, it's your life journey now, you know, and that'll keep it away, hopefully, you know.
Yeah.
But I've helped a lot of people really see that happen. So, yeah.
It's so powerful to really face it head on and to not have to live in that fear relation in the same way.
Yeah.
Or at least less. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, speaking of hydration.
Oh boy, here we are.
Here we are back at hydration, folks. So a little plug here for the Trine of Hydration ebook. Everyone should definitely go ahead and read that. So someone says, I recently purchased the Trine of Hydration ebook and need some clarification about the electrolyte Soleil mentioned therein. It says to scoop it out from the top of the jar, how much is it to be added to food or water or both? And is there a ratio meant to be added to drinking water? So maybe we could do a quick description of the Soleil and how it's made, and then
that's great.
Yeah, how to use it.
Yeah. So how to make it is in the ebook. So you can, you know, you can kind of look it up there. You're making a salt brine. It's making your electrolytes, potassium chloride, sodium, magnesium, and also calcium, like all those components that make up electrolytes. And by the way, electrolytes help us break down calcium. And if somebody has a hard time breaking down calcium or getting if they're malabsorbed and they're having a hard time getting their minerals in their body, the Soleil is designed to make your electrolyte minerals bioavailable, you know? And that's kind of what fermentation does for probiotics, you know? So that would be the reason to make a Soleil. I don't focus on a Soleil in my life. I don't have a lot of issues with absorption. And I don't have any, you know, calcifications or anything showing me an issue. So I just warm it up and make sure it's purely liquid. And that's a half a teaspoon, and that can be done twice a day, but we do it in that first warm water in the morning. And if you were going to do a Soleil, the bioavailable electrolytes, basically, you do double because it's diluted by water. So you do a teaspoon in your water, and that can be done twice a day. And when I say twice a day, it could be any time that you're like, I am dang thirsty or I'm stressed, and you go for some water. Good time to do it. But kidney adrenal time a day for rebuilding with electrolytes, which is their job, is basically like 3 to 5 in the afternoon. So, you know, that's a really good time to consider kind of just reestablishing your balance, you know, instead of going for chocolate or coffee or chai, or we look for something.
Tempting,
we look for something,
we do.
You know, so that or coconut water could be really smart. And you would do the teaspoon of Soleil instead of the half a teaspoon of gray salt. Yeah. Sometimes if I have somebody like that, Soleil can be made with gray salt, just the like magnesium rich everyday hydration. But you could make a Soleil also with Kalinamak, the black sulfur salt. That's more the Soleil I keep around, only because like I want that sulfur if I want it to like roto-rooter through my intestines or like break up a bunch of plaque or break up a bunch of mucus. I notice if it's bioavailable in a Soleil form, it just seems to work a little quicker. Not really better, but a little quicker. So, you know, and then I'll dip little cotton pads in that sulfur Soleil, that black sulfur, the Kalinamak, and then I'll use it for like cleaning my skin.
Nice.
You know, it's like a sulfur hot springs.
Totally.
On my face, which is so cleansing, but it keeps it really plump and kind of nourished. I've used it like in with clay and then made a mask, a sulfur mask. Yeah.
This is awesome.
No, it's great stuff.
Experience.
So I'm more into calling a mock Soleil, but Soleil is a really old way of doing electrolytes that come out of France. And that is where the Atlantic gray salt, like that's where so much of our refined gray magnesium rich hydration salts come from. And they make those soleils, to make sure that just all the mineral compounds are getting to your blood volume and your heart like as quick as possible first thing in the morning.
Yeah, that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
Especially how valuable salt always has been. But you could just imagine in times of old when there wasn't as easy access to salt, you really want to make the best use of it. So that's a really cool way to do that.
There's one other detail with Soleil is like, I really like real salt out of Utah.
Oh yeah.
But when you look at it, it's got brown little bits in it. And like, I really like real salt. And it's like one of the most local, other than we here in Sonoma County. Like, it's a local, it's not from way far away, right? So I like to promote them, but it's got little brown bits in it, and it's little bits of like earth. Cool. They're minerals that are not easy to break down. And so what I like to do with real salt is make a Soleil, because then I can see all the minerals that never absorbed the water. And it just is like a big old bunch of sand at the bottom, which is why we skim off the top. And that way I can use that beautiful local salt. And I really do like to promote local businesses, but I don't want the earthy, sandy bits that are in it. And it's from a river, and that's why, it's from a lake, so, it's probably the way they're dredging through or collecting it, or, I haven't asked. I shouldn't say I know that. So, that's one of the other values of a Soleil, is if you do have a high mineral, electrolyte, because we have to remember that salt is an electrolyte that's edible, but it's attached to minerals, boulders, you know what I mean? Rocks, it's attached to things that are not minerals that you're going to digest. So it depends on how it was chipped away, or like, was it made in a salt mine, or was it like harvested off the earth? Those are the differences. Hope that helps.
Better to not drink your boulders in the morning. Awesome. Okay, well, we're making great progress. This is awesome. Okay, so we have one more question for today, and that is, there's a new development that I've been watching through the summer and into fall. Feels like some neuropathy in my toes and hasn't gone away. Do you have any suggestions in the meantime? I started gua sha.
Okay. So it could be neuropathy. Neuropathy is a little bit more of a chronic condition, and it's going to be where your blood supply to your feet are obstructed and are not functioning well. And literally you are getting numbing, and you're getting equilibrium issues and balance issues, and you can't track your own feet, which then is why a lot of people, when they become elders, that's when they get neuropathy, and then they start falling a lot, because they can't track their feet the same way. Neuropathy is also part of the diabetic relation to, it's one of the things that is very symptomatic, cause and effect in both forms, type 1 and type 2 diabetes. We think of it more in type 2, but I see it in type 1 all the time. So, that's another, piece of it. So you could be in neuropathy, but for some reason I'm hesitant to just be like, yes, neuropathy. I'm like, if you're just starting to get some numbing and tingling, like, there's something you could change. And then we don't have to call it, label it something that is very long term. Like, neuropathy is something people struggle with for when they get it, they have it for the rest of their life, kind of thing. So hopefully that's not you. And you just need to do the same thing as that, though, but you'll get there quicker. And that is blood flow. We could go back to Tulsi.
Yeah,
we really could. And you could add cardamom to that.
Ooh, nice.
And the reason you would add cardamom is because it is a heart, lung, bronchial blood tonic. It's not just digestive, and it's brilliant for digestion too. But, you ask me, it's like blood, heart. So very important. And those two can be, easily used together. It will smell incredible too. So but you need to kind of, yes, gua sha, but, I think med massager should probably hire me for Yes.
The med massagers.
They should be paying me like a stipend here. But any kind of massager that's a full pad, like the chiropractors use, and you can find them. But Med Massager has a great one get the one with the dial. But you just put that on your feet, and it's got a flat side. You can put your feet right on it. There's all kinds of foot massagers. You could also, I personally have one. It's one of the things I have in my house is plastic. That in my cupping set. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna love you, but I don't have a whole lot of plastic in my world. But my foot, I have a foot massager, warmer, soaker, because I work on my feet all day, and I really need that.
Yeah.
And I'll put a bunch of Kala Namak in there, and 1 drop of Tulsi, and 2 drops of cardamom, and I'll just get my feet in that warm water and just make sure I'm keeping my feet healthy. And it's got a little massager on top,
Wow.
And to be honest, sometimes I got my little Med massager and I put it under my knees, and it's all and it's just and then I'll put it on my abdomen while I'm soaking my feet. Sometimes we just get fixed and we're in it to win it. Even if I love my work and I'm satisfied at the end of the day, I've still gotten myself very and I just kind of need to let down.
Yeah.
And allow that blood to flow, and take some time with my feet, and take some time with my hands, and just make sure you're not letting yourself just go to neuropathy. Neuropathy is you are lacking blood flow. The last thing I'll say about this, and now we're in lymph world, but I said it earlier, if your feet are a problem, then you got to think about your hips, and you got to think about the back of your knees. Those are big epicenters, primary epicenters for your lymph. And there's lymph nodes in the soft of your knee, and we've got all kinds of vital organ meridians that run through our legs. So just really finding, that inner thigh is all kidney, liver, spleen, and making sure you're really opening up the back of your knees and getting your hips open. Very important for flow, because we don't just need to get blood down to our feet. We need to cycle it back up to our heart, where our lymph river meets our bloodstream right here at the heart, and cycles back and forth. So it needs enough water volume to stay moving. Blood is liquid. Lymph is liquid. Needs enough water volume to keep moving. And it needs the dams in the river to be not obstructing it, or it's going to tell you, because you're going to be like, I'm not getting enough blood flow. So this is something you can do. It's just going to be how many scrubs you're willing to do, how much exercise, how much gua sha. There's probably going to be a little pain in those sluggish lymph in the knee or up the inner thigh. And I just want to remind everybody, the lymph speaks of fatigue and pain. And we are not meant to live in pain. And we are sent away with pain and not know what to do. And we could be rubbing out our pain. We could touch ourselves, find the pain, and rub the pain out and change the way you feel. And then you could be like, where else am I in pain?
Yeah, totally.
I need to find another area and see if I can break it up. And it's only when I get overwhelmed or I've got so many spots that I'm like, am I not doing as much care as I should be? And then I have to go get help. I need to be like, I got to find somebody who, really is going to help me move this. And so very important that if you find pain, because you're probably going to find pain in your lymph with neuropathy or with poor circulation in general. And sometimes that stops somebody right there. They're like, it hurt. The gua sha hurt. And I'll be like, oh, I wish you would have done it in the tub underwater. It hurts less. Or put a warm compress or some felt, or do it over clothes and make a little buffer. Whatever you need to do, or don't go so deep. To the hurt, and then work your way in. But you are probably going to have to get through some pain spots and open up the dams in the river and the bloodstream to really get more flow down to those feet and then back up to your heart. And this is why cultures that exercise and really stay on the move, stay alive longer.
Yeah.
I think of that the older I get. And somebody who I'm active and I work my butt off and I use my body all day long. But like, I do have a challenge with like straight up exercise.
Yeah.
I mean, come on, you know, I've got cough on my constitution, you know, tell me something every cough knows, you know. So it's like, that's why I'm like, you got to get out and take that walk every morning. Like I have to start with the thing that's the biggest challenge. It opens up my whole day for like, what else can I do?
Yeah.
What else can I face? You know, and neuropathy, you need to use your feet. You just have to be very cautious of how you use them, but it doesn't mean you want to stop walking. Like that's like, you know, I feel like that was to my mother's demise, you know what I mean? And everyone leaves and she left so beautifully and graciously, you know, and lived a long life, but long enough. How about that? You know, longer than she thought she would. But the moment she stopped kind of moving and kind of let that neuropathy thing, like, I can't.
Yeah.
It was like, wow. And some people get to the truth of they can't. And then we just know that they're a little further along. And that's okay.
Yeah.
Like, it's okay. You know, I literally had to stop being my mother's practitioner, you know, and that was how I learned to be one. It's part of our contract together. I have no resentment. Loved learning how to care for people through my mother. And I loved taking care of her. I felt bad that, you know, it was a bummer. She was always sick, but she, you know, it just felt like I'm going to learn what I need to, and I'm going to help her the best I can, you know, but there were definitely things there that was like, you know, you put that many medications into the mix and you start having those kinds of, you know, declines. And that's tricky. And I did just mention medication. I'm not against it. But you know, 14 pills a day is too much for anybody. It's too much for anybody. And there's too many people on that many, you know, so we've got to, how minimal can you get and how much holistic can you do around it to get to the minimal if it's true to you and a necessity, because it is a necessity for some to even, you know, feel functional. And that is the truth, you know, so I'm not against it. But too many is just so complicated for the body. And that's where it just ends up, you know, being too much for many people. And I've seen a lot of, you know, medication use that causes neuropathy. So then we've got that, like all of our anti-inflammatories and painkillers, they actually don't just take away your pain. What about the fact that they're doing it by doing some levels of numbing? Like, we got to think about that. Like, you know, sure, you're out of pain, you know, but not so much as to numb, because your body will literally start following suit, and that's your circulation. So I see that a lot too, where it's like, wait a minute, you're not diabetic, you know, there's no, you know, you still actually move your body pretty well. So like, why are you getting neuropathy? And then it starts coming down to, you know, steroids and painkillers and anti-inflammatories. We really want our pain to go away. Those are the things that help us get out of pain so we can live life. But I just think we need to start spreading the word, all of us, that the way we're going to get out of pain is by being true and honest to our desires and our needs in the world. And touching ourselves and rubbing pain out, and like getting a little bit more into our tissue health. Hey, FYI, everybody, I am in the middle of a 6-month series where I'm going through all 7 tissues. I should just say that. I'm going through all 7 tissues through Banyan Botanicals, who most of everybody knows, but we have been friends from the conception of DeAnna Center and DeAnna Essentials, and the consumption of Banyan Trading that became Banyan Botanicals. And we started our businesses at very similar times. And we were, so cool. You know, we've known each other since we both started these businesses, actually. So really special. And now I'm doing a full series of blogs on the tissues. You should look up Rasa Rakta, lymph and blood, and muscle. Muscle just came out last week, but we're in the middle of it now, and you can look forward to more. Awesome. And you can learn more about all the tissues and what I'm talking about. And I give advice in there too. So
It's so cool to go through them in that systematic way, because then you realize it's like, okay, once we're gonna, next comes the blood, and then then comes the muscle. So when you realize that one thing needs to be healthy for the next thing to be healthy,
right.
It really clears that pathway.
It does. Yeah. And that's how we stay healthy. And it's also how we kind of move back into health when things feel like they're too far out. Yeah. It's really cool for like my students, including you, Abby. But it's pretty amazing to like, you just learned all the 7 tissues in order, and then we literally put it into bodywork practice, which is what I do, in my clinical course, all the bodywork classes coming up, January, February, March. But, and you're just getting the full volume, but it might be really interesting, and maybe you're doing it to then read the like small little 600-word blog.
Totally.
And like, how do we sum it up? So you learn the whole thing, the bodywork techniques, what are the massage tools? When do you use a gua sha? When do you use a massager? When do you use a cup? When do you put on a gem? When do you do some rock tapping? And just, really like who needs what and when do they need it? That's not just in food and remedies, but it's in massage tools and bodywork techniques also. But I mentioned that to my students. I'm like, okay, you did the whole clinical course. You did it. And they'll be like, oh, I don't need to take body mapping because that's just the basics of what I learned. And I'm like, but don't you have to talk the basics for the rest of your life as a practitioner? And remember the basics and like whittle it down to like, what are you going to tell the client? How are you going to relay the information? But that's the cool thing about those blogs right now that I keep thinking about with my recent students, especially, it's just like, okay, you learned the whole vast thing. And now how do you sum that up? And then that sum up is how you relate it in the world. So hopefully many of you practitioners out there will go and read those and start talking that language, Yeah.
Such a handy resource.
Yeah. It'd be so cool if we all start, talking a language that everybody understands. That's just the most beautiful thing about the elements. And talking human body, because we all have the same human body, and nobody's denying the elements. It's like such a foundational piece that kind of allows us to unite to each other, no matter where we go or who we talk to.
Totally.
Very important.
Well, thank you so much, DeAnna, for this incredible session. Wow, I just learned so much. I hope that there's lots of tidbits for you all to take home with you too. Any last parting notes for the folks out there?
My parting note is about thanks and giving. Thanksgiving is right around the corner. And you could use this advice for any holiday when you're going to be around family. So, and even just a visit. So when you're going to be with family, you have to remember their bloodline. So some of the things you're triggered by are the very things you maybe are or don't want to become. Because we're bloodlines, you know what I mean? And we have different, different stories that somebody else told you, and we have to remember what's third party. And then we have to remember what's first party, like what literally, did you hear or didn't like, or what is the boundary? But my best advice to everybody is just when I go to family, and I feel lucky that I love my family and I'm connected, but we are all different people, and I'm quite different, and they've done a great job at appreciating me for being so different. Doesn't mean they feel exactly the same, but the thing in my family I feel good about is like, we're not trying to agree. We actually kind of just sit in this place of like, wow, we all just have different places we stand. And we all just kind of let each other be pretty well. So I feel very lucky for that. But even, I could talk about complications in my family too. But one of the things I've noticed being kind of like feeling like an outsider is make relationship with each one of those family members or people at the party. Think about like, okay, I've got 14 people and I'm going to be here maybe 3 or 4 hours or whatever your thing is with the big group. How much time, if I gave everybody 5 minutes and just, Uncle so-and-so is standing over there. I'm going to go talk to him. My cousin's over there. I'm going to talk to them. Individual conversations in groups of any sort calms down social anxiety. And it allows there to be just a connection with a person in your family.
Yeah.
And it's very different. And then I love seeing who comes and feels safe to join. You know what I mean? And who brings what piece in, and how do we relate to each other from there? But I have a harder time going into a big group of my family where I feel like an outsider, and then I'm in, and all of a sudden it's like I feel like a wrench in the wheel or something, and then it's like weird, and I'm like, I just like to keep it individual. These are my family members. I actually want to say, hey, I don't see you all the time. How are you? This is how I am. How are you? This is how I am. What do I choose to share with each person? What do they choose to share with me? I just think it's very important. And my last little piece of advice, so that's the safety container. It's just like, you're an individual, you get to talk to individuals. It's clean, you know, and it's connected. But when I go home, don't forget, there's a whole bunch of stuff you do not need to worry about being or saying or like defending. You get to go home and be who you are. Like, I don't know, I have nothing I need to prove, and I don't need anyone to change for me. So it's really good to go into your holidays and into your family with like, you don't need to change them, and you don't need to change yourself. So all that could just be put down. And when I walk out the door and get in my car and drive away, I pick up my Life DeAnna bag and I'm like, hello, this is me, and I'm going home with me. So drop your baggage at the door, or drop the defense at the door. Like, why do I need to defend anything I am if it's different than who they are? You know, I mean, I don't care someone's political party if they're my family. I'm like, they think that, and I think this. Whatever. They're going home and I'm going home. We're going to our corners. We're only meeting for a moment. So why even bring any of that crap in? So I leave my, you know, my kind of religion, spiritualism, you know, I leave my, you know, I am a health practitioner, and I leave my political, you know, beliefs at the door. I don't need to take those in, and I don't want them to bring theirs in. So like, why bring mine in? So I just want to help everybody to actually appreciate their families and just enjoy the moment. And it's a nice little, you know, practice to like put your stuff down and just be.
Totally. I love that. It's so helpful.
Really important. And and then you can actually connect with people. And like, I don't need to just connect with my own people. I want to connect with people, everybody. Everybody. I don't want to connect with just people who feel exactly the same as me. That actually makes me uncomfortable.
Totally.
You know, I want to let everybody be. And then if I don't feel safe, I don't have to be around somebody. That's a whole different story. The moment I don't feel safe, or it's beyond my belief, or it's one of my boundaries, like, no. And then I don't have to go talk to that person in the group. I don't have to join a group conversation with that person. I'm allowed to not engage with that person if there's one of those people there.
Yeah, totally.
And then I'm keeping myself safe. So just, I feel really inspired, and I'm excited to see my family. But, you know, that's not how everybody feels. And you might still be going to have a family environment, family event, and you may not feel like I feel. You know, so yeah, hopefully that helps everyone out there.
I love that. That's such a good message. Just like, be an observer, be a carer, people, and do your best.
Yeah. And it's to decide and feel how they want. It's okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, DeAnna. We'll see everyone in 2 weeks on, I think, what is that, December 1st. And you can submit your questions on our website, DeAnnaEssentials.com. If you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see a little spot there. Awesome. Have a great.
Hello, everyone who's here. Who's under your hand, the care of your heart. You're very lucky. So thank you so much. And